So having recently tested the Li Ning Challenger 5, being blown away by the price point and performance as well, I decided to dig a little bit deeper into the Li Ning rotation, and now I've picked up the Li Ning Red Hare 8 Pro. So welcome back to another first impressions video. As I said in the intro, the Li Ning Red Hare 8 Pro, or Pro 8. I'm not quite sure which way round that is. An absolutely incredible shoe that I'm delighted to be bringing to you guys for another review, just diving deeper into the world of Chinese running shoes. This is my second running shoe I've tested from the Li Ning brand, and it's another very good one. Excited to give you more information on this one as we go through. As always with first impressions videos, we'll be going through how I tested it, give you guys a technical overview, and of course then get into my first impressions. Quick disclaimer, as I've already alluded to, I paid £53 out of my own money for this shoe. No one has sent this to me. Let's dive in. So I've got a couple of runs done in this shoe. Very exciting. I was really surprised by how lightweight it is for their daily trainer. So this is their daily option, the Pro version. You can get the Red Hare 8 and the Red Hare 8 Pro. I believe from doing some research, the version that's not the Pro is a dual density midsole. This is the Pro version, so it has the same midsole foam as the Challenger 5 that I've been testing and absolutely loving, which is great. So I do highly recommend the Pro version. And with that in mind, I decided to take it on my first workout back after a marathon. So it was only a small one, but I really did want to put this thing through its paces. And then of course I've got an easy run done as well. So in terms of the workout, I did a 15-ish minute warm up, and then I rolled into 3K around marathon sort of effort. It was out there on the rolling trails, bit of tarmac, bit of buffed out trail, and then I decided to rip 6x400. That was good fun. Just a little intro back into things, hit some really fast paces, and really surprised at how good this thing felt out there. After I got that one done, I then took it out for an easy run as well. Got just over 10k done in that one, and it was so comfy. Really enjoyable across all the pace ranges. And let's roll in to the technical overview. So I've done my best to get as much information together for this shoe as possible before then getting into my first impressions. And once again, I'll share a shoe that this does feel very similar to, or I should say a pair of shoes using the Challenger as well. So I went true to size in this shoe, which is a UK size 13, absolutely perfect fit. I think we're looking at an 8mm heel to toe drop, 35 in the heel, 27 in the forefoot, which I kind of sense feels in and around about right. In my UK size 13, we're talking 302 grams or 10.5 ounces, which is absolutely fantastic for a daily trainer. And let's talk about the heel counter, the ankle collar, the tongue, the lacing, the upper, the midsole, and the outsole. This should be relatively simple because it's quite a simple shoe. Really, one main difference from the Challenger 5, but nothing drastic, nothing major. We've got boom fiber running all the way around, which is a single layer engineered mesh upper. And again, very light, very breathable. With it being single layer, it is very comfortable, but feels good when you're running fast. It really does. Stout heel counter, so there's a bit of structure at the back here. And again, we've got nice padding in and around that ankle bone area. The cut's lovely, sits under the ankle bone nice. No issues there whatsoever. Slightly thicker tongue than the Challenger, so a little bit more padded here, a little bit of a pull tab thing going on here, but absolutely fine. Feels really nice. This is not a gusseted tongue, however, there is a tab on the top here to hold the tongue in place. And again, no issues there whatsoever. I'm getting mud on my hands because I'm fresh off a run in this shoe. Lacing system is very standard. Again, exactly what you want. You do not want anything fancy. Nice eyelets embedded into the upper material. Not going to have any issues with that whatsoever. Laces are perfect length. They all feel really good. And the upper in general, just like I found with the Challenger 5, is very comfortable. So a word of warning, again, it's not a narrow shoe. What I enjoyed about the Challenger 5, especially now comparing it to the Puma Velocity Nitro 4, which is a daily shoe that I've also just got in for testing. That shoe is very narrow from midfoot to forefoot. What I noticed about the Li Ning shoes in particular, they do have a narrow midfoot, but they do widen slightly more in the toe box for a more natural feel, which is exactly where I need the room. So from my perspective, I can get away with a narrow midfoot, even if there's a slight overhang here, but my toes do spread out quite a lot as I get down to this section. So I do need it to be a bit wider in here, and it feels really comfortable. comfortable. So again, slightly narrow in the midfoot, but lovely room in the toe box. As for the midsole, this is the same midsole used in the Challenger 5. This is their Boom Foam, super critical, really nice, really comfy, beaded midsole here. Feels very reminiscent, as I've said before, of the Saucony Pro 4, and also reminds me a little bit of Boost midsole back in the day. Love that stuff. It is so comfy. What you get with this midsole is a lovely soft cushion ride, but you get some good bounce, some good pop. It's exactly what you want, and that's coupled with a bit of a late stage rocker here. Nothing particularly aggressive, but it's enough that just when you're going through your gait cycle, you get a nice little flick off at the end just to keep the momentum going, and it feels very natural rolling forwards. Now, compared to the Challenger 5, we don't have a carbon plate in this shoe. We do have what looks to be like a nylon midfoot shank. So you can see here, it comes out the sides here, and you can see it through here, but this is not a nylon plate. This is more a stability factor. It is purely, in their words, to connect the heel to the forefoot so you have a smoother, more stable roll through, which I would agree I get. Absolutely fine. As you can see, it runs all the way around the back there, round to the lateral side, but it doesn't seem to go any further than the midfoot section. So that's fine. Again, it's just that little bit of extra element in there to add a touch of stability, but it feels really nice. And as I said, super smooth ride. Just like the Challenger 5, we have the GCR rubber grip. Now, this is the only thing I had a question mark over in the Challenger. It's just the durability. That was all I was questioning. I felt like when I was testing that shoe, I was doing K reps, and when I was getting to the end and just doing sharp U-turns and going back the other way, I didn't particularly feel as planted to the ground as maybe some other grips, and so that was my only question mark. I hadn't skidded out, I hadn't slid out, it didn't feel too slippery, but it just didn't kind of tack the ground as I wanted to. Really hard to test that with this one because I wasn't doing any sharp U-turns, plus I was kind of out on that buffed out track along with a bit of concrete as well. Even though it was wet, it felt absolutely fine, so I didn't experience any issues there whatsoever. But I suspect, as it's the same type of rubber, I'm going to feel the same if I do K reps and then do U-turns and stuff like that. So again, time will tell on the durability, but overall a very well set up shoe, very comfortable, really nice. That is it for the tech. So with all that out of the way, how did I find the Li Ning Red Hare 8 Pro? Absolutely fantastic, really enjoyable, just like I did with the Challenger. Honestly, I could use those two shoes now for a rotation for weeks. They feel so comfortable, they're so good to run in. I don't feel like they're too aggressive, but I feel like this late stage rocker is exactly what I love in a shoe. Any shoe that's got a bit of a late stage rocker, I'm a massive fan of, just because I feel like it just helps the momentum, especially when you're on tired legs and you're running in something that's completely flat, a bit slappy, it's hard to get going. These things just keep you going. The midsole foam is that perfect blend. It's certainly not a soft midsole like a super soft marshmallowy, but it's soft enough. It is right in that sweet spot. And again, talking about shoes that it's very similar to, I really do feel like I've got a pair of Endorphin Speed and Endorphin Pro, version 1 or version 2. Now, I know I mentioned the Challenger 5 feels like the Endorphin Pro 3. It really does, but in general, these two shoes just marry up nicely with the Speed and the Pro back in the old days, before Saucony nerfed the Speed. They were just such a great partnership, and I feel like I've got that back, and it is such a good feeling. I've always wondered if I went back in time and could use the original Speed 1 and 2, would it have that same wow factor that it does now, having tested new shoes and shoes with better technology? I think the answer is yes, I would, because I feel like it now with these two shoes. And I think what I was really impressed with more than anything is the fact that I could pick up the pace and do a decent workout in this shoe. So when I did the workout, I obviously, a bit rusty coming off the back of the marathon, so the 3K tempo was a little bit off, just trying to get going again. But the 400s, I just split really fast, and the shoe just worked really well, and it felt really good. And it's one of those situations where I look at it and go, do you know what, for £53, I'm getting a top tier shoe. And I just look at the other options that I've got in my lineup, and I think right now, if I went out to do a workout and I didn't want to use a racing shoe, other than my Adidas Pro 3, which is just a fantastic shoe for my double threshold days and some of my longer workouts, have I got something better in my rotation? Probably not. These two are really, really good. Really enjoying them. I think I'm going to get a lot of miles out of these shoes. Now, I'm going to tell you the sad thing from my perspective. I've spoken to a few people in the know about Chinese running shoes and wanting to do a little bit more digging into there. The Douyin Pro 3, a racing shoe, that has been highly recommended and is really in that hyper shoe category. Again, very affordable. I'd love to test more brands, but from what I can gather, Li Ning are really the only brands that go up in bigger sizes. So I know I struggle with a lot of brands now in the Western side of things. If I went into the Chinese brands and tried to dive in a bit deeper, it's very hard for me to find anything in an EU 49. Li Ning don't even make their racing shoe in a 49. It really is just the daily trainer and the speed day shoe, which is a Challenger 5 that I can get. So I think I'm going to be a little bit stunted. So if any of you have any recommendations of shoes that I can test from a Chinese perspective and just get more involved in that side of things and test more shoes at a great value, I'd love to hear what your experiences are. Some of you got some really good comments on my previous videos, so it'd be great to hear any further feedback you have on any brands that I could try and that do my size. Now, I've heard people compare this to the Evo SL, compare it to the Nova Blast. Quite honestly, I can kind of understand that. It's just a better, well-fitting upper than the Evo SL. The Evo SL is a tiny bit baggy, but overall, from an Adidas perspective, it's one of their better uppers. It's definitely a different type of midsole. It feels different. I think when the Evo SL opens up, it's a little bit softer than this one. I prefer it because it's slightly firmer, just slightly, not massively, but then that works for me for my height and my weight. I feel like I get a little bit more out of slightly firmer midsoles. I do get lovely squish in the front here, but I get so much pop back that it just feels really good. So overall, fantastic first impressions. If I could recommend either of these two shoes, I would. I mean, realistically, what did I pay? 70, was it 73, 74 pounds for the Challenger 5, 53 for this one. So we're talking £130 for two fantastic running shoes. I would highly recommend. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you tried any Li Ning racing shoes yet? Are you keen on trying them? If you are, let me know. It'd be great to hear from you down in the comments below. And if you did miss my Challenger 5 video, I'll make sure I leave a link to that one up there. That's the one with the carbon plate in it. Much lighter, much more in the weight of racing shoes that I've been testing recently. Or if you're interested in seeing what my marathon training shoe rotation was in this previous marathon training block, which did include the Li Ning Challenger 5, check out this video down here, and I'll see you guys over on one of those.